We have started the show. The StreamYard duck is all happening. And this is AOK Book Club. Welcome back for episode number 3. If you somehow missed out on the Immortal Hulk version, if you missed out on Oblivion Song, I linked the playlist down below so that you can catch all the glory of myself and this guy, Perry Comics, the hosts of AOK Book Club. Perry, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, I'm hanging out. I'm enjoying my Friday evening. You got a couple shows on. It's a big night tonight, man.
Friday night is legit these days.
It is.
And our guest this time around, the champion of champions for Bear Island Comics giveaway contest, the one and only Mr. Biggie Shaq. Biggie, how you doing, man?
Doing good, dude. I had a pretty good day today. I got my books on time. I thought that I might not get one of them. And pretty excited about seeing y'all today. I'm going to do a couple more videos too. I think we're all pretty stacked up on our, what we're going to do tonight. But
I saw pretty good, man. You had Highly a Comic Bro on. That was awesome this morning.
Yeah, I want shout outs to Big Bear Island, dude. This is a dope book. I appreciate it, man. Glad I won the contest, and I'm glad to be here, dude. I think Die was pretty good, man.
I'll tell you, it was early on when Perry and I were joking around about Immortal Hulk, and I was like, screw this, I'm just sending this to Perry. I sent it to him, and not long after you won this contest, and I was like, this is the perfect person for this show. Like somebody who hasn't had a chance to read this book.
Oh my God, that's true.
Just got an amazing book in the mail, and now is like, you're not going to crack it and read it, so you want to know what you got. So I thought Biggie Shaq, he's the man for this.
Dude, it helped me a lot to understand what I own, because I'm not really a Dungeons and Dragons guy. I didn't pick up the book, so I was glad to flip through volume 1. I enjoyed it, dude. I think they laid down a pretty intense, methodical track of dialogue, and you could this is one of these books you could pick up 5 times and still not figure out, dude.
And I think Perry mentioned something like that when we were offline as well. I'm gonna jump into the chat real quick and say hello to some folks, and then we're gonna get into first impressions and see where we are. TJ right off the bat says Perry's here. Is it possible to put a guest in timeout? Yeah, there it is. I just did it. He's gone. He's in timeout right now. That's how you do it. And now he's back. So it's totally possible. And I gotta love the comic triple threat. These guys support each other. Whenever one of these guys is on a show, I see the other guys in the chat. So there's Jabroni saying hello.
Heck yeah.
The boy who had 7, I am on with him in about an hour. Gonna do the Friday night fights. I'm looking forward to that. We got Just a Rican who would drop a hysterical comment about his wife using the word lurker correctly today. Cracking me up. JD Comics, thanks for coming by, man. He is a real giving kind of guy. I really do appreciate him hanging out here. And he had a great show on Tuesday with the Golden Guys. And then he had a show last night talking wrestling, comics, and the hunt, which Biggie, you're on there tonight, right?
I think I might be, dude, because I got my book, man. I'm ready to throw down. I'm looking at you, JD Flair, brother. You're lucky I'm on John's Comics with Kids and Kate and Charlie's watching, brother, or I'd go in on you now, man. But just know I got my book, dude.
You are ready to go. And he gave us a preview. We're not going to tell you anything, but you just better watch out.
Yeah, he's whipping it out tonight.
Whoa.
Well, like in a good way, you know?
Enthusiast in the chat. And my man Bake the Snake, who's going to be on the Friday night fight here in an hour, along with Highly a Comic Bro, also in the chat. Thank you for coming by, everybody. Let's see. Did I miss anybody? Looks like everybody's here. That is awesome. Thank you for coming by. And yeah, we're talking about Die, the Image comic, Stephanie Hans, Kieron Gilleon. If I pronounce his name right, Kieron Gillen. Maybe it's Gillen, not Gillian. The first trade is issues 1 through 5. They just published issue 6. Mine is one of it's slightly different. It's the San Diego Comic-Con one that I got. But what are your first impressions? Now, Perry, you hadn't read it before this show, right? Okay. Correct. And Biggie, you hadn't read it before. So I'm going to go to Perry first. Perry, what were your first impressions on this book?
I opened it up. And art is subjective.
That's the first step. I opened it up. That's good.
I opened it up. I flipped through it. There's a couple pages before it actually starts. And I don't know. Like I thought out of reading all 5 issues, the first issue to me was the better one out of all of them. I feel completely lost after reading this book. Yeah, I just, some books aren't just, they're not for. I would rather read Immortal Hulk.
Wow, that is. I'm just gonna say that's a burn because you came out of AOK Book Club Immortal Hulk saying, "Yeah, I might read that," and now you're saying I'd rather read that.
I would rather read Immortal Hulk. This one, I might pick up the second trade, but I don't think I'm gonna be picking up the issues. It's just not my cup of tea.
Hey, and the reality is with something that's like you're saying, it's this complicated, and everybody I know feels strongly that it's a book you read again and you get more out of it each time. That it was not something that an artist and a writer just sort of slapped together. It was something that was really planned out, and they took their time, and they even did their 5-issue story and then just stopped making it. Like they just took a break and were like, what do we want to tell them? Where does the story want to go now? Because they want to spend that much time on it. And because of that, it's something that, it's not a passive reading. I love passive reading. There's lots of books I read passively because it's just a quick jolt of fun and I'm just enjoying it. And that's all I needed. But there's other books that I want to actively read and like Lost. I watch Lost actively because it demands focus. Everybody drink. It demands attention. And I feel like Die is similar. It does demand a lot of attention.
I feel like it does demand attention, which is cool. There are books that I like that, but it's just like, this is more like if I was in school and someone was forcing me to read this book. I don't want to read it. I just didn't. Like there was a scene with this guy fighting the dragon, and it was like the most lackluster fight scene I've ever seen.
Oh wow!
With him with a sword, and I was just like, what? It's like half of a page panel. Like that's your action scene. Get out of here.
But there's depth, dude. I don't want to. I'll wait my turn.
Yeah, actually, I'm going to go to you right now, Biggie. So what were your first impressions when you started kind of reading through this?
Well, I'll tell you what, man. Look, when I first started collecting, I indulged in independence, dude. I was like an independent guy.
Good for you. Not a lot of people do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriend was kind of what prompted me to start collecting. So she kind of tended to lean towards the Image comics and stuff like that. And I think it's a little more trendy these days than when I was doing it. I remember when I was doing it around 2016. You didn't really hear much about it, but now it's like a daily thing. You hear about Image. I think it's a little trendy, but it's not the greatest story, but I do think that it's the best #1 that came out last year, and that does something for me. When I got to reading it, I will admit that the first 2 stories were so deep, and you had to really think about what you were reading to understand where you were going with it. Just the point of the girl that the sister that had the dog die, and she was going with them to join, and this she wasn't even wanting to go. She just went because she couldn't stand
along, right? Yeah.
You're not hollering about the dog, and you just feel like it's starting off on a bad foot because these kids are going to get in a lot of trouble. So I was just like, and then I read that about 2 times before I really started going further because I wanted to understand it. But after that, 3, 4, and 5 was pretty easy to get through, and it seemed like a quick read to me. The art's fantastic. Stephanie Hans killed it.
She's amazing.
And I think what's the writer's name? Federico or what the fuck?
It's Kieron Gilleon.
Gilleon. Okay. I heard that he did Young Avengers.
Okay.
And
he just dropped another book this week called Once and Future.
I think that this is his breakout title though. I think this is like his one that's going to rock. And I was telling these guys about it before we got in here that I think the most interesting part of the story was where in the beginning, when they first played, they had a 2-year gap where they were kids and they went into this world and they came back, and the story's so dark. They did such horrible things they can't even speak about them.
Right.
So that just leads you to think that in the future there's going to be fans wanting to know stuff about that.
Definitely. And I will say issue 6 addresses pretty strongly in a small way what happened, or at least the fact that they really did live a long time in this place, and it had huge effects on them and the place. You know what I mean? After they left it. So yeah, now I'll do a little. For me, I first read it because Alec picked this for book club and was like, "We should read this." I like Stephanie Hans. This guy Kieron Gilleon's great, and I was like, "I'd never heard of any of these people. Let's give it a shot." And I will say it's probably, for me, the best book from book club that I've read. It just was, and the joke of book club is usually that we hate the books, that we're generally like not enjoying what we're reading because we're trying different things. This was one where the first issue had so much going on that I was like, oh, I got to know where this is going. The art was so different, so not typical, that I was like, I want to go further with this. And then, like Biggie was saying, by the time I got issues 2 and 3, I was like, yeah, I'm in on this. I want to keep going and see where this goes. And for me, it got better each time because of the way that the writer kind of, in my opinion, tears characters apart. It's not about action. Which I know is kind of frustrating when they have action sequences, but it's more about the characters and their trauma. Like, they're all traumatized. It's
a bit of a horror, dude. It's not art like you would think it's a horror, but it kind of is, dude.
Yeah. Some other folks jumped in the chat. I say JIB Comics. Thank you for coming by, brother. I appreciate it. I collect a lot. Glitter and Duct Tape, which is a phenomenal name for a channel. Thank you for coming by. Retro Savage, good to see you, brother. I appreciate all these folks coming by and hanging out. And that triple threat, man, they are busy in this chat.
Hold on a second now there, Big John, dude, because I got to give a shout out to my NWO crew, dude. I see a couple of my homies out there too, man. We got Lucha Libre and Bake.
Yeah, those guys are going to be going head to head in the fight in about 45 minutes on Boy Who Had Seven's channel. So they're probably prepping their boxes and everything. So I want to talk a little bit about issue 1, if you don't mind, because for me, issue 1 is really complicated in a lot of ways. Firstly, they introduce a ton of characters, and just expect you to know them and to and just throw it at you. And I think that's one of the most challenging parts about this is right off the bat, they're going to thrust you in and just have you grab onto these characters and just hope that you can hold on and keep going. And then the story also gives you 3 different timelines with those characters. You have the day they
jam-packed issue 1.
Oh,
jam-packed.
It is absolutely. And they give you day 1 when they're playing the game. They give you the second day when they come out of the game. And then the third day in general is when they get pulled back in again. Those 3 different eras. And they're all of those eras are separated by years. And so there's a lot of passage of time, both in the game and out of the game, that we see these characters dealing with. And like Biggie was saying, they're unable to talk about what happened while they were in there. And later we find out in issue 2 that it has to do with a certain kind of spell that's on them, that they're unable to speak about it in our world. And so they're held back. Yeah, I can't remember the term that she uses for it.
Well, let me point out one more thing, John.
Yeah,
there was a 2-year gap where they can't speak about it, but we didn't really get back to them until 20, 25 years where they were mid-adult.
Yes, exactly. What is he calls it? The GEAS, and I'll spell it in the chat here. GEAS. It's the basic spell that is on them that it makes them. It's impossible to discuss anything that happened while they were in the game. And at the beginning of issue 2, Ash, the main character, is saying that it's off of them and they're allowed to speak freely now. Once they're back in the game, there's nothing controlling what they talk about. So, Perry, you said you liked issue 1. So what was it for you that was drawing you into issue 1?
I thought it was cool how they came out and the one was missing an arm. They were missing one of the group. It was like, oh my God, what just happened? Because it just set you up with they were in this room and what the hell just happened? And then boom, they show up. It kind of reminded me of another book I just read. Oh man, where they showed up in the future and they see a version of themselves in the future. I don't know. Those time jumps are really cool.
Yeah.
And then seeing them have the dye delivered to them at I think it was like a bar.
They're at the game, and he gets one in a box.
He gets one in a box, and then he decides to have a meeting with everybody and stuff. And you see the one guy who's pretty successful, and he has this big house with multiple bathrooms, and I don't know. I thought that was kind of cool. And then how they just all gathered around this one die and just got pulled right back in, I thought was cool. I don't know, the whole game master, everybody's like almost like an NPC type of thing. I don't know. It seems like a boring world, you know?
Oh man, I'm worried about you if the world of die is boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man.
I'll tell you something that was confusing for a lot of people reading it the first time. Getting from issue 1 to issue 2. Let me save off on that. I want Biggie. What was it about issue 1 that you? How are your feelings about issue 1?
Well, I think that it was like I said, probably the best Image #1 last year. But to be specific, I think that it was just jack loaded full of dialogue to where it had you wondering and kind of anxious to jump into issue 2, and you weren't really sure where it was going after issue 1. You was just thinking, wow, there's a lot of time lapses in there. You know, we could go anywhere with this story.
Definitely.
I would have liked to have tried to learn each name and player. I do remember a couple.
It's complicated. And I was going to say, the thing that a lot of people get confused by is the main character is a man and he goes into the world and becomes a woman.
Whoa.
Oh, and I don't know if you understand. So the main character on the cover that you see there, Ash, is the main character in real life, and that he's a man in our world and a woman in Die.
So is that the one who made he had the dice, the die?
No, that's they go over to their friend Solomon's house, right?
Okay.
And Solomon is the one who answers the door. That's Solomon right there.
Okay.
Maybe I make mine a little bigger here. Sorry.
Okay.
That's Solomon when they arrive, and he's got all the dice. We don't even know in the book how he made this game, but then he gives a die to each kid that's there to hang.
Oh, that's a good page.
This is the page where they expect you to just pay really good attention, because they're going to introduce everybody and give you a little bit of information about them and who they're going to play in the game. So they get the kind of idea of who they are and what die each of them gets, right? A die 4, a die 6, a die 8. And Saul, the game creator, gets a die 20. He's the one that's going to be the game master. Now there's a brother and a sister pair, and they are the ones that we're talking about. The brother becomes Ash in the game. A woman, basically, right? And that's pretty confusing for a lot of people. So once he gets into the game, and he's the main character. We see him here drinking coffee by the window. 25 years later, and he's married. He has a wife, the whole thing, but it's not necessarily working all that well. And he has his sister's the one who lost her arm. So they're the two of them are at the bar. He becomes a woman when he's in the game. And so that gender swap, I found a lot of people were like trying to keep up with who that was. I don't know if that helped in any way.
Yeah,
so
that made a lot of sense to that.
So when they land in the game, this was the guy who's doing really well, has all the money, right? This is the sister with the one arm. This is the brother, but now he's a woman in the game. Right.
Oh, okay.
And then these are the other two characters that join them. Right.
See, I like the fool. I can't remember his name, but as long as he was courageous, he couldn't lose. Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of cool.
Yeah, they've got some fun ideas for characters, but I also agree with what Perry's saying. Like it demands a lot. Like it is not. And again, it's funny because some of the movies we've done for this movie show, like I was rewatching a movie that Perry picked, and I was like, this movie demanded more of me than I remembered. And the first time I watched it, I don't think I gave it enough. And I think it was on me because I enjoyed it much more the second time. And it's possible that somebody could feel the same way about Die, that it just didn't hit at the right time for them. Like I tried to read Game of Thrones at one point before the show, and I couldn't get into it. And then I watched the first season of the show. And then after that, I read all the books and then watched the rest of the show. So for me, it just was the right time. Maybe
all the dialogue in the book. First off, I'm not a big fan of dialogue. But just the artwork, I know a lot of people, like 99.9% of people love the artwork in this, but it just didn't rub me the right way. Like when I seen all these kids in the bedroom and I was looking at their faces, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this artwork at all. You know?
I'll tell you, man, by issue 3, I gotta say, I wasn't that confused. I kind of seen where it was going, dude. And I understood where this was going almost completely by issue 3. I was like, oh, okay, these guys have certain powers. They're in this world. I tell you, the creepy thing, man, that people, I don't know if I heard anybody say it, but as far as I can understand it, as long as all of them wanted to go home, they would just go home.
Yes. That's definitely
right.
Yeah.
So I thought, like, who wants to stay, you know? And someone must want to stay.
Yeah, and they go into it a little bit in this story where you get to the idea of how they got out originally, how they escaped, and why one of them was left behind. But now that they're back, the guy who they left behind, he doesn't want any of them to leave, and so he is not willing to let them go. He is this character of Solomon has now become the villain, and that he is the reveal at the end of issue 1 when he greets them after they come down the stairs, and he's got like no eyeballs anymore. He's wearing his dice, right? He had his own die in one of his eyes, and then he killed the previous guy keeping them there and took his die, and he's wearing that in his other eyeball. Which is,
I tell you, the thing with me is like, it kind of made me think of how like quick life flies by and how precious time is, and how some of these guys do not want to be the game master and they don't want to stay. And you know, that's the thing that I ultimately got from it, was like it's playing on that a lot.
Definitely.
So does time inside of Die move same as in the real world?
No.
Because, you know, like when you play a game, usually a game has like an accelerated time.
It does.
You know?
Yeah. Which is why they come out, and it's been a lot longer for them. It hasn't just been a couple of years. It's been a while for them.
Like in Narnia. Well, no,
yeah,
Narnia
exactly. It's 2 years in our time that they're gone, but it's longer in the game world when they get back. For me, you guys touched on issue 2. I feel like issue 1 and issue 2 are like the two halves of the story. You have like the first issue is really all the backstory, like how did this all happen? And then the second issue is like, okay, we're back now. What is this place like? And you get like you get the fool sort of killing the woman, and she turns into a monster and tries to destroy them all. And you get the dungeon master kind of telling them the rules of the new game and how they have to play by his rules. He doesn't want them to go home. It's sort of like this awful other reality, because the first book, you don't really see anything that happened there, right?
No.
It's very much in our world. And then the second issue is all in their world. I'll tell you something interesting, John. The chick that is addicted to the mineral, as long as she don't have it, or as long as she has it, she's okay. But once she don't have it, her body's going to like deteriorate. Was there any power doesn't work anymore? Yeah, that's it.
Was there any time where she wasn't getting the mineral, or was she okay the whole time?
She lives off of this stuff. They call it FAIR, FAIR, and it's like gold. It's like, yeah, like you're saying, this mineral, and we get to see her pretty much have it the whole time. Issue 6, the new one that just came out, is the first time we really see her without it, and she needs it. And what does she do with? And that's the issue that a lot of people were like really upset about, because it was really powerful stuff. Yeah, you get to see all of them kind of draw on their powers here. You had like Biggie loved the Fool. I love the Fool too. I think he's very, very funny. Let's see. They call him Chuck, I believe is his name. But he goes to talk to the beautiful princess who comes down the stairs. She's like all beautiful and stunning, and he wants to go up and talk to her, and he just like kills her. He just just absolutely murders her. And then he's all happy about it. And he's like, wait for it. And then she, of course, comes back. I love some of these drawings, like comes back out of the underworld, just like all those spirits all around her. She's like coming out all creepy. And then there she is, just all horrible. And I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Mary, that is a
hold on.
piece of drawing.
Hold on. Is that the part where he thinks he's going to get with like a fairy and she turns into the dead?
He acts like he wants to get with her, but he kills her on purpose because he knows it's really something else. Yeah. And then she comes back as the undead, and he's just like, charge, and wants to run in and just kill all the undead creatures. But that I just freaking love this. Unbelievable.
What was your favorite part, dude? Is it okay if I tell you mine?
Yeah, no, go ahead, Biggie. Go ahead. Now, the rest of the story, just for those that have never read it, has to do with them in this world and trying to figure out how to beat the game and get home again. But what was your favorite part, Big?
My favorite part was the part where I kind of like sat the book down and was like, oh, okay, I see where this book can go. Was where there was a spell. There was the chick. She was in love with the dude, and they had a spell where he couldn't rest until he saw her again. And so she left the game or something, was gone for years, and this guy died. Well, his soul couldn't rest. And through the years, he lost his eyeballs. There was just maggots, and they were all gone. His eyes were gone. And he ended up running into her, finding her, and he was way gone. And there was somebody was like, I could give you one of my spells or one of my powers to give my eyeballs so he could see you. And then once they did that, the body just corroded on top of her, and it was all gross and nasty. I was like, man, what a good storyline, dude. That was pretty good.
That might be one of the moments I love as well. That's in issue 3, and the theme that keeps happening through the story is like suffering for the mistakes of your past, right? And this is clearly our main character's Ash. This is some of her big mistakes she had in this world. And now she's going to have to face this one. There's a line that says, 25 years of putrefied flesh sloughs onto me. That's just nasty. And of course, the drawing is right there for it. Like you're saying, all the maggots and stuff just falling onto her. It is like something out of a horror. There's the maggoty eyes, and just, it is mess.
Fantastic.
So good.
But didn't she tell him to bind those words?
Yes, she did this to him.
So yeah, she did this to him, but he said, bind my words.
Let's see.
So he did it to himself, no?
No, she has the power. She is what they call the dictator or the diplomat, and she can control what people do with her words. If she wants it, it'll happen. And she talks about not trying to use her power because she's used it several times in the past and had horrible repercussions. And this is one of those. He is basically under her spell for life. And clearly now we've seen it extends into death as well. Like he continued to be bound to her and awaiting her. Yeah, super creepy.
It is kind of weird.
Hey, dude, explain the grief god if you can.
Oh, I will. That's my favorite character, I think, the God Binder. But let me say hello to Just a Little Podcast. Thank you for coming by. Zen Manga, Discovery Bay. I will be seeing you later on. You got some shows going tonight. Of course, we had Bueller in the chat. Thank you for coming by and not saying Roadhouse. Much appreciated. Zlos, thank you for coming by. I appreciate that. Borinkin Comics, always here. Whenever I have a triple threat person on my show, Borinkin Comics is there. I appreciate the support, man. So the Godbinder is one of my favorite characters. Her name is Isabel, and I think they've got the.
Are you sure that's it, dude? I thought it was the grief god or something to do with grief.
Oh, the Grief Knight.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
There's two characters. This is the Grief Knight. Where is he? And he's got this sword
that's
that he can only use it if he's feeling intense grief. And when he is, his power is basically unstoppable. And so usually Ash has to whisper some word of sadness to him, and then he becomes like, instead of a rage monster, it's sort of the opposite of the Hulk. he becomes a grief monster.
But very similar.
Yes. So she whispers some words, and then his eyes go all sort of like teary red, and then his sword becomes fire, and he just is unstoppable. And she does that a few times for him. Where's the one?
I know that the fool was like a jock in high school. I can't remember what the grief night was before he went.
I don't know how much info they gave on his backstory at the beginning. It says Matthew, smart, painfully quiet, the one black kid in our Midlands metal crowd. Even before his mom died, he was the most depressed of all of us. And here he is a second time when she's fighting a dragon, and she whispers to him, and his sword becomes like fire, and he destroys the dragon, which is the bit that he's complaining about as far as being anticlimactic. But I would argue that issue is not about the action; it's about the repercussions of the action. She's in the trenches with a character who's slowly dying for pretty much the whole issue. So it's more about like the people suffering because the action is happening, and the action is around her, but it's not the focus. Like the focus is what she's suffering through. There's the other character that I really love is the God Binder, and that is Isabel. And this is her, where she basically is very powerful. Like the gods listen to her, and they make bargains with her, and then she controls them and uses their power. So my favorite issue is after they defeat the dragon, they're on their way. They go to, I think it's called Glass Town.
Yes.
And she goes to church because they're worshiping her because they know she speaks to the gods.
Hold on, John. Before that, dude, they said that they had a choice. They could have went to the other place.
Yep.
That would have been like maybe a little harder. And she chose to go to the Glass Town because that's where the game master was. So they wanted to go there and wreck stuff.
Because they know that Solomon made all of this. And if he loves Glass Town, that might be where he's hiding out. And I love that part too, because I played Dungeons and Dragons. I was that nerd, and going to a town was always the fun part, where it was like everybody got to be a knucklehead. You know, one guy might go to the bar, and one guy might go to the brothel, and one guy might go buy some crazy stuff, and everybody kind of went their own way. And it happens here as well. So she goes to this church. The best part about that issue, though, for me is the final moments. Alec and I had been reading a whole bunch of comics where the last page was yet again another villain reveal, right? Like so many comics these days, it's always the villain reveal at the very last issue. Or the last page. This one, the last page, you could call it a villain reveal. The villain is our characters, because our characters decide we're not going to play this game anymore. This is stupid. You know what we're going to do? We're going to burn this mother down, and we're just going to see if we can make God come to us. And I freaking love that moment. It's like I get chills every time I think about it. Like they're like, no, we're not going to wander through the game here and play this. No. If we burn this sucker down, I have a feeling he's going to come to us instead. And for me, it builds to an epic conclusion where, of course, it works, but it turns out even worse in the end. So, did that?
Yeah, it's good.
Moment,
we're almost
that moment is cool for you guys as it was for me, because I love that moment.
Go ahead, Perry.
I was going to say, is that the same one who said in the beginning with the dice that, or the die that, she wants to be a god with she's an atheist with God for pets. Okay. Yes. It's like hard to follow along with like who is who.
I will legitimately say that the biggest challenge is understanding, because the characters, again, you're talking about 3 timelines. The characters look different each time. They look different in real life. They look different in the game. So keeping track of who is who and understanding who they are is a big, big challenge. And I will legitimately say it was difficult. The benefit in reading single issues was each issue began with this page that basically gives you a little bit of highlight into who they are and their dice. I don't remember where it appears in this trade. Sorry.
I don't know if it does, John. I was looking for that. It's on issue 2. I couldn't find it.
Oh, well, let me pull one out and see if it looks familiar to you guys.
Yeah, let me say what I was thinking was I think that the other option they had besides going to the glass town was like a shorter path, but for instance, the path, if they would have done that, then some of their paths would have came up. For example, like the girl with the dude with the eyeball, stuff like that could have happened. So
Definitely.
they couldn't handle that. They was like, no, let's just go the long way and go to glass town also. So it wasn't just let's go do that. It was basically they didn't want to go do the other thing either.
You're spot on, Biggie. Exactly. And I think our main character, Ash, she or he was very much feeling like I just had my past like rot and turn to mush and fall all over me. I don't really want more of that. Like, I'm good. No. I don't want to do the past anymore. I want something different. So this, at the beginning of all the issues after issue 1, you get this page. Sorry, I'll blow mine up again a little bigger. Where it gives you an image of each character. It tells you which die they have. It shows you what that die looks like.
It's blank.
Ooh, okay.
You see the trade, they have it, but it's empty. Like, there's nothing there. Like, they want you to fill it in.
Sorry,
it just shows the little diagram or the little
diagram. Yeah, but it's just everything's empty.
So they give you a little synopsis for each one. So it says like Ash is the dictator, Dominic Ash in the real world, Ash in the world of Die, married, in marketing, and Saul's best friend. Then it would say Chuck is the fool. He's a fantasy novelist with multiple ex-wives, no tact, and a film franchise. Matt is the grief knight, parent, husband, a statistics professor at the local university. Angela is Neo, Ash's sister, a coder and a parent on the outside going through an ugly divorce. Isabel is the Godbinder, divorced school teacher with aggressively bilingual intelligence. I don't know what aggressively bilingual intelligence is. Saul, the Grand Master, he made the game but never made it out, and now he's dragged everyone back. So they do give you that at the beginning of each issue, which I did feel was very valuable. Stop manhandling
that book.
Don't worry, TJ. I only pulled out one of the second printings that I have several copies of. I wouldn't do it with a first print.
Daggone. Hey, John, I remember you saying this is the first book you got the A and B cover of. That's crazy.
It is. I only started doing it recently, but at the same time, I've sort of gone out and bought all the other ones. I have quite a die collection going these days. These are all die.
Oh my god, dude!
There's only like 5 issues.
And actually, I have more because I have all of the issue 1s that are nice are ready to be slabbed. They're in a box.
Oh wow!
So most of this is other stuff. So I got.
I think you like it. I think you like it, John, because it's a bit of an intellectual kind of book, dude.
Yeah.
I also like it because it's fantasy. I love fantasy novels. So here's issue 4. These are issue. Oh, this is still no. That's issue 4. There's an issue 3. Yeah. So I don't have a lot of issue 1 in here actually.
I was gonna say out of covers, these 2 covers are my favorite hands down.
Let me sorry. I realize it's all on me. So let me get back to. Sorry.
Put me backstage. I don't know. These look really. I don't know. These are gorgeous. I'm not a fan of the art in the book, but these covers are phenomenal. Do you have these?
My favorite was issue 2 with the vape, dude. I thought that was the best vape comic book picture I've ever seen.
And then for those that don't know the story, the first trade kind of ends with they destroy or defeat Solomon, only to kind of find out that he doesn't really die, that he becomes this sort of undead. And that there's a connection between the undead in this world and the people in the real world. And this realization kind of forces their group to split into two teams, one that wants to stay and one that wants to go home. And so now they're stuck for all intents and purposes.
What do you do then? I thought that was the goal. You beat the game master and then you're the game master, but the game master didn't die, so he's still the game master?
It sounds like there really is no game master. That he's technically still, he's not dead. He's undead, and he speaks in the 6th issue. He still talks, but they need to all agree to go home. So the game can keep going as long as they don't all agree to come home.
Sheesh.
Yeah,
that's it. We got through the whole volume 1 there, John.
Well, yeah, I mean, so for me, I get it. I totally agree. It's not for everybody, and it's fantasy. It's a lot of talking. it's light on action, but for me, it's big on like mood, creepy mood. Like there's a lot of creepiness to this for me. And then there's a fun steampunk. I don't know if you guys know that term steampunk, but like the idea that you get like old and new kind of mashed together. So you get a dragon, but it's like a robot dragon, like a giant metal dragon. You get like, yeah, there's a war going on, but it's like almost like World War I trench warfare with the soldiers that look a little bit like hobbits from the Lord of the Rings. It's really kind of odd.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in Croatia too. Isn't that like a real place?
Yeah.
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 So it's a strange, the design is very strange. It's not simply fantasy. There's definitely some retro kind of things. So Perry, what were the things that you liked about it? See, I know that there were things that you were like, it was slow, but what were the things that you thought were cool?
Oh man, I don't know, honestly. What are you doing, man? You put me on the spotlight. I don't know. I didn't like this book at all. I know, like, I'm in like the 1%. Probably not even the 1%, like the 0.1 of the 1%. I don't know. This book didn't, like you said, it's a lot of dialogue. It's a lot of, you got to take notes. You got to crack out a notebook. You got to have some type of intelligence, which I must lack, because it just didn't do anything for me, man. I mean, there were some parts where like this end at the end, yeah, it was pretty cool. This page, you know, the artwork was decent there, but I mean, it just, I just wasn't. I feel like I would have enjoyed the book if I would have enjoyed the artwork more. I don't know. It's kind of hard to read a comic book if you're not enjoying what you're actually seeing.
I totally agree. And I agree that her artwork is unusual. And I know that there are panels that I don't like as much, that I'm not as blown away with. What about you, Biggie? What were some of the things you didn't like as much about it?
No, because I liked a lot of things. Is that why
you're give you guys a chance to speak the other
side? Okay.
I don't know.
I'll tell you the truth. I didn't like. I was hoping to come into this and learn a general understanding of Dungeons and Dragons, and I didn't come away with that. I didn't come away with that, and I don't know nothing about it. I've seen people play it, and I've seen people they get real excited playing it. But I was wanting to see like each play by play, dude. That's what I wanted.
Sure. Yeah, and I will say that there's I know that they invented a role-playing game for it. Like you can buy, there's a game that you can download created by the writer and with pieces made by Stephanie Hans. So there is a game that you can buy to play. Oh, wow. But I want to say it's in beta phase where you just download everything, you pay online, and then it's all computerized and you print pieces that you need. But yeah, I agree. There's not much to that, and I think. Yeah, I think there's two. That's a tricky one, Biggie. I totally agree. That's a challenge because I think that it's clearly written for people that have a limited understanding of that stuff in some way because they use it as backstory almost in different places. That's a great.
Yeah, that kind of sucks, man. I don't think it would take long for people to get the grasp of how the game works.
Absolutely, you know? Yeah. And I know that the big setup they mention in issue 6 is. How did the game get made? Like, how did this kid make this? And it's phenomenal. There's a moment where they're talking to the zombified Solomon, and he's like, "You can ask me anything. I'll tell you anything." And then she's like, "How did you make this game?" And he's like, "Well, anything but that." And he literally says, "I'm not going to tell you that. There's no way I can tell you that."
Dang on.
Damn.
It was a wonderful little like tease for the audience.
I would have probably enjoyed more depth in the worlds too, because it felt like you're just popping in and around everywhere, and you had the undead, and like you said, there were dragons, but there is a lot to use in your imagination. Like I did enjoy when the fool attacked the dragon because I pictured a bunch of dragons and I just pictured this epic battle in my mind, you know, and I thought that was kind of cool.
And like Perry's saying, you don't see it. Like he runs off like a crazy man. And our hero, Ash, goes to hide. She doesn't really have any like traditional weapon. She uses her voice as a weapon. So she gets in to get cover in the trenches. And for the entirety of that issue, she's down in the trenches talking to this hobbit, which, by the way, for big Tolkien fans, like Lord of the Rings fans, there's a lot of references to Lord of the Rings in there. In fact, to Tolkien's time as a soldier and to Tolkien himself, he appears in the comic. They have a version of J.R.R. Tolkien as a character in the comic. But so she's down there and the fool is fighting a dragon, and we don't get to really even see it. And I get that. That's frustrating. And then, of course, at the end, she is so sad by what she's seeing. She just needs to whisper a simple idea to the Grief Knight, and then he loses his cool and slays the dragon in one swift stroke. But you want to almost see like all the chaos of whatever's happening, like right above the
trenches,
because she's right there. And you would imagine in a movie that there'd be constantly sounds and flashes of light, but that you would see nothing.
I'd like to point out one more thing is that in the glass town that the substances like entertainment or drinks or tobacco, whatever, is abundant, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, and I think that's always a part of like D&D, right? In those games, you have the times when you get to town and everybody wants to just drink. Like everybody's drinking and carousing, or in the case of Tolkien, it was always the Hobbit weed. They were always smoking weed. They were always smoking the pipes and the.
Hey, John, that guy pointed out like I forgot how good it was to smoke like a real cigarette.
Right. So I forgot. So these are the issue ones that I'm getting it slapped. I got four of them.
Good grief.
So those are those.
Good luck, dude.
I'm hopeful that if I do a little press and clean, I could get a couple of decent grades out of these.
Awesome.
Fingers crossed. So we're gonna end it up here. Obviously, we'd like to talk a little bit about like, would you read more? Perry is saying he's gonna get Immortal Hulk 2 after reading this. Which I think is a success for me on any level.
I mean, I might pick up the second trade. Like, I got this at a bargain. That's why I picked it up. I got it for like $10. Well, actually, it was buy 2 trades, get 1 free, and they were both 10. So I picked this up.
Nice.
And if I get another bargain like that, I'll pick it up just to see like what happens. Because I think that's the one thing that I want to know is how this was made. Because it looks cool. Like where he's sitting there and he opens up this box. And there you see all the dye, like that's freaking cool, And like every time I go to Comic-Con, I'm always seeing people selling like these Dungeons and Dragons dye that kind of look like that. And it's like, there's a lot of craft work that goes in this. So I'm like, how the hell did this kid make something like that?
Yeah, for sure. And what about you, Biggie? Would you be interested in getting single issues or the trades or just skipping it? What do you think?
Dude, I'll tell you, bro. In the late 70s, early 80s, Dungeons and Dragons was a big fad, brother.
Yep.
And Walking Dead popped big time. So, I don't know. I'm just going out on a limb. I don't know that in 10, 20 years that these early issues might be worth a lot of money. So I'm kind of tempted, bro. I got that nice slab and I got that volume 1, but if I ran across them, dude, I would for sure pick them up.
Nice. I really want to say thanks to Biggie for being down for doing this. Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I haven't ever hung out with you on a show before. This was awesome, man.
Yeah, dude. You're a whiz, bro. You knew the background names. You knew a lot of stuff. I'm very impressed, man. I kind of expected that, but I just want to let you know, dude, I appreciated the book, and I'm going to definitely hit you with something for your kids, unless you guys want me to send it to someone, send an AOK for like a book for the future for somebody. I would do that too.
Nice of you, Biggie. We were just pumped that you were down to join us and talk about this. I know Perry had just gotten the trade. I know you just gotten that slab, so I was like, this is perfect.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to hit your kids with some nice chick books because I got a ton of them, dude.
That's very sweet of you, brother. Awesome. That's very sweet of you. And then Perry, you've got late night tonight at what is it?
11 p.m. Eastern.
11 Eastern, right?
Yep. Yeah. Usually a lot of fun, I don't even really.
Oh yeah.
We don't know what happens in late night. It just kind of rolls off the tongue, and we just keep going. Yeah.
And then Biggie, he's going to be on with The Hunt tonight. He's going to be crushing some skulls over there on Tony Sanders' channel. You better watch out.
Hey, I'm gonna do a power hour, and all the NWOites we can gang up before we go out there. I'm not for sure concrete invited. I was gave a money. I was gave a money in the bank, and that's not Tony's fault,
dude.
That's not.
It's fun.
Yeah, it's not Tony's fault because I wasn't sure I was gonna get my book, but now that I have it, I'm hoping I'll get in.
Yeah, you get. He sends the invite to you every time, whether you come or not. So you're ready to go. It sounds like strapped up.
Okay, good.
So thanks to everybody for coming. I want to shout out a couple things. One, we have 2 other episodes of AOK Book Club. If you enjoyed this, you can check them out. They're in the description down below, the playlist. We also have more planned, so be on the lookout. If you want to join in some fashion, whether you want to give a book to one of us who hasn't read it, or if you're looking to read something that Perry and I have both read, let us know. Drop us a line somewhere, and we'd be happy to hook that up. I also want to shout out Mr. Tacoma Comics. I've been on his channel twice talking about Die, and it's been a whole lot of fun. It's been with Bear Island and with D Comic Queen. We did a show a couple months back, right when they released the trade for Die. We did the whole story. And then we just did one again about a week ago talking about issue 6 when it dropped. So if you want to know more Die, you want to hear more Die, Tacoma Comics is obsessed. He is a Stephanie Hans fan, and he knows everything. The dude is on fire.
And it's a fun live stream. I sat in that live stream. I watched the entire thing, and I don't know anything. Like I can't keep up with these intellectuals. So just join the live stream.
Yeah, Bear loves
fun
the book
over
too.
So check out Tacoma if you haven't heard of him or his channel, because he's a lot of fun. Teacher to teacher, another teacher out there. So definitely respect. Thanks everybody for coming by, and hope to see you guys again soon. Head over to Boy Who Had Seven's channel too, because he's going to be rolling here in just a second. Strapped up.